On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, Feast Week is here. It's the best week of the college basketball season outside of March. The Maui Invitational is going on right now as we speak. As I am speaking into this microphone, games are being played in, I almost said Maui, sad. It's in Honolulu. It's in Oahu this year because of the fires in Lahaina. But checking the score, there's 7 minutes left. Syracuse is down 4 to Tennessee. Dalton Connect was cooking. He hasn't scored in a little bit. We had to turn it off and record the podcast, but it's a situation we will be monitoring. Tennessee's, it felt like they've been up like 5 this entire game. But yeah, Syracuse is hanging around. That's Tennessee basketball, baby. Is they just they might let you hang around, but they kind of know what they're doing, but maybe they don't. I don't know. We'll see if they can hold on. Oh, they're back up 6. So thrilling basketball game. But Maui Invitational is going on right now. Also, the Battle for Atlantis, which is kind of it's always a great tournament, but it's always a step below the Maui Invitational in my eyes. There have been a couple years where the Battle for Atlantis has tried to say we have the better group of teams. And whether they're right or not, Maui will always be the number one for me. This year, the Battle for Atlantis lineup isn't quite as great. Still some name brands. Carolina's there. Memphis is there. Texas Tech. But Villanova has lost a pin already this season. Arkansas just lost to UNC Greensboro. Michigan lost to Long Beach State. I think some of those losses kind of took the wind out of the sails of the Battle for Atlantis. And it isn't quite as great of a group, and especially with how stacked Maui is this year with Tennessee and Marquette and Purdue and Kansas, Gonzaga, UCLA, Syracuse, and then, of course, Chaminade. Maui is just insane. But Feast Week is here. Arizona, by the way, Arizona and Michigan State play on Thanksgiving in a weird-ass, championship game of a tournament that wasn't even really a tournament. Michigan State beat the snot out of Alcorn State, but come to find out, that was actually the semifinals of a tournament. It's all a very weird time. I don't fully understand all of it. I think that's why I like Maui the most, is because it's the one I actually understand. The rest of these Feast Week events are a little confusing at times. But anyway, Arizona, Michigan State play on Thanksgiving. That'll be a ton of fun. Rob Dauster, the Field of 68, is joining the program today to break it all down. We talked to Rob this morning being Monday morning, so a lot of the games had already been played. I think I said that in the interview. But yeah, we talked to Rob about Feast Week. We talked to him also about this UConn team who plays Texas tonight or last night. If you're listening, you know how we're recording on Monday. You get it. They played Texas, but they just beat the crap out of Indiana. And Rob is a UConn fan, and I've known Rob forever, and I thought we got to have him on the show and talk about this UConn team because I'm quickly falling in love with this UConn team. Still got a ways to go for me to love them as much as last year's UConn team, but they very much looked apart in the preseason and the offseason. I never said I was out on UConn. I just said I need to see it. I love those 3 guys they lost so much. I just need to see what it looks like. I saw what it looked like against a team with the polls finally in Indiana, which I don't think the Hoosiers are that good, but at least they have some talent and should have theoretically provided a fight for UConn. And the Huskies look great. I mean, the Huskies look like a national championship contender for sure again this year. So I talked to Rob about that for a while and all sorts of other college basketball stuff. Fun conversation with Rob Dauster, Field of 68. Please enjoy. All right, Rob Dauster is here, and it is Feast Week, which is obviously a great week for college basketball. One of the best weeks, certainly the best early week of the season. Gets everybody excited. All the casuals start tuning into Feast Week. It sucks for us, Rob, in this instance because we are recording this. It is 11:41 Eastern on Monday morning, and the reason I'm timestamping this is that there are a million games today involving ranked teams, and we're putting this out on Tuesday morning. And I say all that to say if Rob or I hype up a team that loses today, just know that we were joking, and we didn't actually mean it, and it was sarcasm, and you guys just couldn't pick up on the sarcasm. But anyway, it is Feast Week. Rob Dauster's here, and I wanted to talk to you about one of the teams that is playing today that everyone listening already saw play last night, I guess. UConn. You are a UConn fan. They are the defending national champions, and I was watching UConn play Indiana, and it stood out to me that yes, I understand that Indiana is not a one of the top teams in the country per se, but UConn just looked like they were on a completely different level, and I it really, the overreaction I had was just from one game. I really think that repeating is very much in the cards for this team. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm starting to come around to that idea a little bit more. The thing about this UConn team is last year's group was loud, right? Like you knew Jordan Hawkins could reel off 4 straight threes in 5 minutes like this, right? You knew what Andre Jackson was able to do, how athletic he was. You knew if you gave the ball to Adama Sanogo in the post, something good was going to happen, right? Like they had their 3 guys, all 3 of those guys ended up being pros. We're seeing what Jordan Hawkins and Andre Jackson are doing in the NBA right now. They're both in the starting lineup. They're both playing really well. This year's group doesn't have that same kind of like pop, right? But they're just a buzzsaw, man. Like they're just, it's like going into a meat grinder when you play against. They're big, they're physical, their guards are old. They got this 7'3", the wall of Bristol is what I like to call him. Donovan Clingan in the middle. Like he made Khalil Ware came into that game last night averaging like 18 and 10, and then he made him look small. Donovan Clingan did. So, but they don't have that same level of elite talent. So I was a little bit worried. I don't want to say worried because that's the wrong way to phrase it, but I thought they were more like a top 10-ish kind of a team than like a top 5-ish kind of a team coming into the season. And I mean, you see Tristan Newton have 23, 11, and 6 in Madison Square Garden. And you see Cam Spencer do all of those Cam Spencer things that he was doing last night. They're good. They are really good.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me is like I agree with you. They don't have the top end talent the last year's team had, but they have the confidence across the roster, and that is, it's just so apparent when you watch them play, especially in a game against like Indiana, who has like negative basketball IQ. That Indiana team is just like, holy shit, they are the definition of like beating themselves. They do not do the little things well. In fact, they do none of the little things well. But anyway, that's what became apparent to me is like all the dudes on UConn just play with immense confidence. Tristan Newton and Caravan knows his role perfectly, and when he's open, he lets it fly. Cam Spencer he was always that way at Rutgers, but now he's that way at UConn, where he's like, there's no rule that says I can't score 40 tonight, so I'm going to go out and try to score 40 tonight. What to you is like the secret sauce of this with Dan Hurley? Like why is it that, because I think this is happening now in the last couple of years where you're starting to UConn has gotten to the point where you could put them in any jerseys and I can kind of like pick up on some hallmarks of like, oh, this is a UConn basketball team with the way the confidence of what they're playing, with which they're playing and how hard they're playing. What is it to you that makes them play like this?
They kind of changed what they did after the New Mexico State loss, right? Like it was year 4 for Hurley, right? Year 3, he finally makes it to the tournament. They lose in the first round to Maryland as a 7 seed. Year 4, get back to the tournament as a 5 seed. They lose to New Mexico State. And up to that point, his whole concept of building a basketball program was, all right, we're going to be more physical. We're going to be more athletic. We're going to be tougher. We're going to press. We're going to defend. We're going to force turnovers. We're going to get rebounds. We're going to try to win that way. And then he kept seeing himself like lose early in the tournament. He's like, maybe this shit isn't working. Maybe I need to do something different. And what you saw last year was embrace this idea of pace and space and creative sets and tons of movement. And let's just try to play a little bit more of a modern style. And it worked. They were a juggernaut. They were a wagon. They won the national title. And if you go back and look at what they're doing this year, I think through 4 games, they've taken 7 shots that weren't threes or in the paint, right? Like it's turned into a very, very like pace and space, analytically sound, mathematically savvy, however you want to phrase it. Like they turned into that kind of a team. And oh, by the way, they're also like ridiculously tough, and they got a coach that only accepts like if you're a complete psycho. Like you mentioned Cam Spencer. I went to one of their practices earlier. He punched at least 4 chairs when I was in there just because he missed a shot in like a drill. He punted a ball once from the court that went all the way up to like the entrance level, and it rolled almost out the door. If the door was open to Gamble Pavilion, he would have kicked the ball out of the arena. And I guess that's an everyday thing for him. So like they got a bunch of psychos on that team that play really smart, really sound, really well executed basketball. And I think that's kind of the sweet spot, right? Like here's the craziest thing to me, Mark, is they kind of held Indiana. Like, you know, when you're playing against like your little brother or something like that, and you're just kind of hold your arm out and you keep them away from the ball and you just kind of dribble them and they can't get close to you, right? It's like me playing against the 8-year-old kids in my neighborhood. And that's what it felt like for UConn playing Indiana last night. Like it never really felt like Indiana was going to make a run. And UConn didn't even have their most talented dude. Steph Castle wasn't playing. He's going to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
It was wild once you kind of looked at it big picture. And I don't know if that says more about UConn or your Hoosiers over there, but it was stark to watch in person.
My Hoosiers. Come on. They're your boy Goodman's Hoosiers now.
They are. They are. It's really annoying. I'm so tired of hearing him talk about Indiana basketball. Did you see what he said yesterday? He said that
No.
Indiana had a more talented starting five than UConn's starting five. Where do you stand on that?
Uh, I mean, yeah, that's insane.
I think he started
That's
getting into the Blue Moons a little early yesterday.
that's
Mark.
insane. That's insane. The Indiana team though, this Indiana team, like you could see how, but not really, because I mean, like, I'm watching Indiana yesterday, and it's like this team will never. I've tried to talk myself into like IU has a high ceiling, but I don't know where their floor is. But like I don't think it's like I don't think they're ever going to like be good at the little thing. I don't think Kel'el Ware is ever going to be like tough. I don't think he's gonna like go up against a Donovan Clingan and be like, you know what, I'm bringing the fight to him tonight. He's just not wired that. And Baco, I don't want to criticize a kid who's like 5 games into his career, less than that, I guess. I don't have any idea how he was a 5-star. He is one of the worst defenders I've ever seen on a college basketball.
Well, they're
court.
playing him out of position. Like Woodson's not doing him any favors.
Yeah.
He's like a 4-man that can slide up and play small ball 5, and they're trying to play him at the 3.
Yeah.
Right. Like I get what he's doing. You want to get your 5 best players on the floor, but when you're trying to play like 3 bigs together and then switch everything defensively,
it's
and oh, by the way, that yeah, it's a mess, man. It's not working.
Dude, it's an absolute mess, and I think that was like the stark contrast I had with, like, obviously UConn's a better team, but it was just like the way they were going about it was just like I guess like for me last year, UConn going to the national title, I was not surprised. The Huskies were so good in the non-conference that like yeah, they had the slide in the middle of the season, but when they picked it back up, like I wasn't exactly shocked that we saw UConn be so dominant. But coming out of that season and going into this year, where UConn is ranked high coming into the year. My question is kind of what you said earlier was like the top end talent is now gone. Like those 3 guys that they lose were so important to the team. The question for me was like, was last year's team a national champion because they had some good dudes, or was it because the culture at UConn is now like over the hump and now it's like this is what UConn basketball will be? And I think that is my overreaction from the game against Indiana was like, oh, okay, this is just who UConn basketball is now. And again, I understand with context, Indiana is not going to be a national title contender or anything. But like you said, it was just like it was like playing a little brother. They just like Indiana cut it to 7 a few different times, and the Hoosiers fans in attendance are losing their fucking minds. And even I'm like at home just like, damn, it's still a 7-point game. Like you had to go on this great run, have shots start to fall, and it was just a 7-point game. It's not like IU took the lead or anything, but you got within 7 and you felt like you had something cooking there. So
the behind the scenes when I was at the game yesterday, right? Like I had the press credential and everything, but I brought my family. I brought my kids. It was their first ever UConn game, and my dumbass accidentally bought tickets like in the Indiana section right behind the Indiana bench. So it was me. There was like 4 guys in the row directly behind us that were also UConn fans, and then everyone else around us was Indiana fans. And every time they go on a little 6-0 run and cut it to like 11 or cut it to 9, and all of a sudden we get loud and you hear all these Hoosier fans start chanting, these guys behind them would just be like, man, chill out. Like you've got it under double digits. Settle down. You are not a mid-major. You are Indiana basketball. There are no moral victories here. What do we do?
Yeah. It's going to be a long season for the Hoosiers, but I do think they do have the talent theoretically that they will have like 1 or 2 games where they have no business winning, and they'll win, but they're going to live on the bubble all season, I think. So what?
You know what they need?
Go ahead.
Here's what Indiana needs. I'm going to fix the Indiana basketball this season for you. Ready? We need to implement a rule where you have a trade deadline in college basketball. And what they need to do is trade one of those 3 big guys that they have to Duke for one of the guards, one of the 5-star guards that Duke has that's not playing. Bring one of those guys back to Indiana. Dude, that's what needs to happen.
Great call.
Works out better for anybody, right? You got a little more size at Duke. You got another guard at Indiana. That's what we need.
Dude, great.
Can we make this happen?
We should have a trade deadline in college basketball. I mean,
how much fun would that be?
I mean, dudes, it does feel like we're getting there. Dudes just transfer whenever they want, and it seems to work out. So I don't know. Maybe that's not as far fetched as it seems. Tristan Newton. My last thing on UConn is just Tristan Newton. He to me last year ended up being the difference for the team. Like I felt like he was up and down throughout the year. By the time March Madness rolled around, he was fucking rolling. He obviously was a monster against Indiana. Do you think that like the up and down nature of Tristan Newton is behind us, and that this is just who this guy is, and this is who we expect to see all year, is just a very aggressive point guard who can kind of do it all?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Tristan was figuring out how he can have like a normal relationship with Dan Hurley. You got You got this maniac from Jersey City whose father was like this really famous high school basketball coach that played a certain way, whose older brother was Bobby Hurley, right? And he's coaching a kid that comes into the program after growing up in El Paso, Texas, and then going to school at East Carolina, right? Like the vibes for the way that he's lived his life and the way that he's played the sport his entire life is very different where he was and then walking into that program. And I think they just kind of had to figure out that, like, okay, I don't need my point guard to be the most vocal dude, to be yelling, to be screaming, to be exactly who I am, to be effective. And once Danny figured that out and Tristan figured out, like, okay, just because this maniac is screaming at me every single day doesn't mean he doesn't care about me. Once they kind of figured that out, then that's when UConn went on their run at the end of the season. And I think that now that they have a year under their belt, I don't see him slowing down. You know what's crazy about him? Watch this next time they play. I've never seen a dude that looks like he's going to dribble the ball off his foot every time he's being pressured, who then somehow manages to find a way to cross somebody up, get to the rim, get fouled, get an and one. Like, I never feel comfortable when he's dribbling the ball that he's not going to end up turning it over or throwing it into like the fourth row, and then he makes a great play. It's a very odd experience watching him.
I think it's just his confidence. He's just like, like he maybe is close to turning it over, but he's just like so I've said it like 5 times. I'll say it again. It's just like something about watching UConn, the confidence with which they play. I've always felt like that is like the number one skill a team can have is if every player on the team is aware of how good they are. That's like a sneaky thing that isn't as obvious. Like, some teams have guys that are way too confident. Obviously, that's like the worst case scenario. But oftentimes there are dudes that are not confident enough, and I feel like that could be and like Alex Karaban's a great example. His role on this team, if you put him on a lot of other teams, his confidence level would probably be too little. Like, he would be like, I'm just out here to kind of like fill in the gaps. But Karaban really does go into every game where what I said about Cam Spencer too, where it's like, there's no reason I can't score 40 tonight. Now, I might not, and if the game ebbs and flows a certain way, I'll take a back seat, whatever. But like, every single one of these dudes knows exactly how good they are, and it's been fun to watch so far. The UConn does have an insane schedule this year, though, so that'll get interesting really quick. Like, going to Kansas, North Carolina. Are they at Gonzaga, or is it like one of those
it's
like
one
fake...
of those like semi-neutral, home and away. I think they're playing at like what's the name of the NBA arena in Seattle? The Key Arena.
Yeah. Oh, they're playing in Seattle. Yeah, the Key Arena. Yeah.
So they do one in Seattle, then they're going to do one in New York.
Insane schedule, but I'm fired up to see what this UConn team is, and also I'm saying all this assuming that Texas did not just beat them, as everyone is listening to this. I'm gonna go ahead and
we're gonna drop this podcast. Texas win by 25.
Yeah. Moving on, broader picture. Who do you so far in the season? The season's very early, obviously. Panic button status with some of these teams. Like, who? What is the number one? Like, shit, I thought that team was going to be good, or like maybe not even you. The college basketball world thought that team was going to be good, but I got to be honest. From what we've seen a couple weeks into the season, I'm smashing the panic button if I'm them. Is there a team that comes to mind?
I think it's Michigan State for me. And I know that's probably like the trendy and the easy answer, but the reason I say that is I was expecting much more out of AJ Hoggard. I was expecting much more out of Jaedon Akins, and maybe they're going to figure it out. Maybe this was just like an early season blip. But when you combine the struggle, like the whole reason we were in on Michigan State was because I thought that they had the best backcourt in college basketball, right?
Yeah.
Tyson Walker's been a stud this season, but I thought AJ Hoggard was going to be just as good. And I thought Jaedon Akins was going to be just as good. And when you combine those three with Malik Hall at the 4 and whatever you want to try to figure out at the 5, like that's a lineup that can get creative. You could play small ball. You could be switchable. You could do all these different things. Now you just got a bunch of little guards that are inefficient, that are missing shots, that are hoping that Tyson Walker is going to score enough to be able to keep you in the game. And that's not how you're going to win playing Tom Izzo style of basketball, especially when like there's times you got to play, 6'4" Coen Carr at the 5 spot. Yeah. So I went from thinking Michigan State could legitimately compete with Purdue for a Big Ten title to being like, you know what? The Big Ten might just have one team this year.
Yeah, Michigan State has like zero identity, which is wild because they felt like a team coming into the season that kind of knew who they were. They felt like a team that we would know exactly what we're getting, and now it feels like they have no idea who they are and what lineups work and what lineups don't. And Tyson Walker's really the only thing that is consistent on that team, and he's been awesome. But I just don't think he's not going to be good enough to carry them, though, is he? I don't know. He has been fucking awesome. He's been awesome.
Yeah, but like you're putting all that on like a 6'1" guard who basically is kind of score first, right? Like you need him to be basically Allen Iverson every single night, and that's asking a lot out of anybody, right? Like he's awesome, but he's going to need some help at some point. You're not going to beat Duke in the Champions Classic or beat James Madison at home just relying on Tyson Walker. He dropped 35 against James Madison at home, and they lost. Think about that.
That's insane.
That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing.
The Big Ten in general is looking not great to start. Wisconsin has fallen off a cliff for whatever reason. Not that they weren't ranked right to start the season, but I think they were receiving votes. They were one of those teams.
I was so in on them. That's one of those ones where I hope like you got to go back and see if I can erase takes from the internet. Because I was like, yeah, they're going to be a top 25 team. They bring everybody back, and they add AJ Storr from St. John's. Well, turns out like adding a dude that's going to take a bunch of shots doesn't work out very well when you got other guys that want those shots that are already coming back. So, I don't know about that.
Maryland got blown out by Villanova. Michigan losing to Long Beach State. I thought Michigan was interesting there for like Michigan beat the fuck out of St. John's, and I was like, damn, is Michigan going to be a team? And then they lose at home to Long Beach State. You know, there's a team that like is sneakily, I'm smashing the panic button on, but like the audience is going to just completely fall asleep until we move the topic to a different team. Is St. Mary's preseason number 23? They've lost 3 in a row. Weber State, they lose to San Diego State by 1,000. Xavier beats them by 17. The non-con, like obviously the West Coast Conference is Gonzaga and St. Mary's, and I know the conference has gotten better, but like let's be real, it's like those two teams, and it's not exactly a conference where you get a lot of opportunities to stack up impressive wins. They're sneakily like going to be in bubble territory for a team that like had some sort of buzz as like maybe they can dethrone Gonzaga because this Gonzaga team is not the power that we're used to seeing.
They badly need San Diego State to be awesome and Xavier to be awesome, and Weber State to win like 30 games to really have a chance, right? Otherwise, like they might already be fucked. Yeah, they might already be in a spot where they can't make the NCAA tournament because, I mean, look, they're never going to be this elite physical defensive team with the way that roster is built. You got to be really good offensively. You got to be able to run your stuff and get good shots and be efficient and make open threes. That's kind of how they're built. Since they were up 16 at home against Weber State with 13 minutes left in the second half of that game, right? In the last 93 minutes of basketball that they played, they've been outscored 175 to 113. I did the math on that myself, Mark, so I know it's correct. They've been outscored by 62 points in basically 5 halves of basketball, which is insane. That's crazy. As a top 25 team playing against teams that are unranked. We know Xavier's not very good this year. They beat them by 20.
That's crazy. Yeah, and the schedule, I'm looking at it right now. They have Davidson, they have Utah. Utah's not awful, but you know, like they have Boise State, Colorado State. Like there aren't opportunities other than Gonzaga to really like undo the damage that they've done. I mean they were. I don't want to say that like people had Final Four aspirations with this team, but they were a trendier pick to like knock off Gonzaga and be something at the mid-major level. They look like dog shit.
There is one guy on the field of 68 that picked St. Mary's to make the Final Four this year, and his name might rhyme with Jeff Goodman.
I have to. We brought his name up now twice. We do have to address the elephant in the room. That so Rob, for those who don't know, which everyone knows, you run field of 68 with Jeff. Jeff Goodman had some comments about the Barstool Invitational. What did his tweet say? Just unwatchable? Was that it? This is unwatchable? Yeah,
something like that. Unwatchable, yeah.
Care to defend your boy on what? Yeah, because I had to like address this around the office where they're like, should we be worried about Jeff Goodman talking shit about our event? And I was like, not really. My poor guy Jake Marsh, who all he wants to do is call college basketball games. He finally gets an opportunity with he's had some other opportunities, but the Barstool Invitational is a big deal to him. He's doing a hell of a job calling this basketball game, and you have Jeff Goodman step up and say this is unwatchable. I mean, respect the biz, Jeff, right?
Yeah. Well, let's just say that was not. I told you this at the Champions Classic. That was not a shot that was directed at Jake Marsh. That was directed at other people that Goodman has had past run-ins with. And I think everybody knows who we're referring
No,
to. Like he just, like he is who he is, man. Like Goodman is stubborn, he's opinionated, and if you kind of push back on him on a take that he has, he's gonna double down.
it cracked me up
That's just
because
who he is. That's why it works, man.
you, and Jake are sitting at the table at the Champions Classic, and we're trying to remember why Goodman and Portnoy hate each other, and we couldn't really like put it together. We're just like, we're like, what was it? Was like the final? Was it the final? I don't know. Was it the? Who said what? We're just like laughing. We're like, I don't know. It's just, as it turns out, it's two opinionated dudes that hold grudges really well. And
yeah, it's like, are you surprised that two stubborn dudes from Boston are going to find a way to not like each other? Like that's just that's what they are, man. That's how it works.
Where do you stand on the Big 12, Big East, and is there another conference that's better to you? Like I assume you being an East Coast guy, being a Big East guy, you're going to say the Big East. But like what's your read on like the best conference so far this season?
I think it's the Big 12 is the best, and then I'd say it's the SEC. I don't know if that's a hot take. I think the Big 12 or the Big East, once you get past the top three, like Marquette, Creighton, and UConn are all national title contenders, right? They're all tier one, however you want to phrase it. They can go win 6 in March. Once you get past that, I think there's some real question marks there, right? Like, how good is Villanova really? Do we trust Kyle Neptune yet at this point? I want to see it work for him. I like Kyle, but I don't think losing at the Palestra is a great sign, especially with the talent on that roster. Providence has a chance to be really good. Providence also lost to Kansas State, who got smacked around by Miami in the, the Baja Mar or whatever it was, somewhere down there in the Bahamas. Xavier is not who we thought they were going to be. Tough ask when you lose Jerome Hunter and Zach Fremantle before the season even starts, but Xavier is probably going to be like a borderline tournament team at best. St. John's is not what we thought they were going to be. And once you get past that, like Georgetown stinks. DePaul is DePaul. Butler, I want good things to happen for them. I'm not convinced it's going to be this year yet. Seton Hall has won a bunch of games. They haven't actually beaten anybody, and the only thing notable about them is Shaheen Holloway almost got in a fight with another Seton Hall grad in the handshake line. Did you see that?
What was that? Like I saw the video, but is there a story behind that? Like that seemed insane.
So Seton Hall was up by like 18 and was pressing down the stretch of the game, like when it was very clearly over. And Donald Copeland didn't like that, and he said something to Shaheen about it. And I don't think Shaheen liked that he said something about not liking it. And Shaheen Holloway is one of those dudes where if he's not angry about something, he's not breathing. So that's why his programs play the way that they do. That's why he has success. And I think he's going to be mad about that for the next week. So maybe just hammer Seton Hall next time that they play.
There you go. Yeah, St. John's has been a bummer. Getting blown out by Michigan, losing to Dayton. They're 3-2. I think we all.
Do you think that's going to work out for Rick there? I want it to.
I don't know. I've been talked out of it by people in New York City that are just like St. John's is dead. Like St. John's just cannot be revived, and it's not. I mean, I'm not going to say people. I'm going to give him a shout out. Rico Bosco made the argument. He pointed. His whole thing was like everyone's fired up about Rick Pitino back in Madison Square Garden, but they only play X number of games in Madison Square Garden. Like nobody, that gym that they play, the Carnesecca Arena, kind of stinks. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere in terms of New York. Like the glitz and glamour of St. John's. The way people talk about St. John's is that it's like right in the heart of Manhattan. Like you can get any recruit you want. As it turns out, you can't. And he's telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, you're the East Coast guy, so I'll just agree with you. But it also kind of checks out because like. You do kind of scratch your head over the years. And you're like, yeah, if so many good dudes are coming out of New York, like why has St. John's never really been relevant outside of the 80s? I don't know.
You know why it worked in the 80s, right? The way that they got it rolling in the first place was that it's technically a commuter school. Like they don't really have a big on-campus presence. So they were able to get stipends to pay players to be able to have them, like we got to pay them this amount of money to be able to have housing to live here. But all they did was recruit kids from New York City who just lived at home. So they were able to pay these kids thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to go
there you go.
Their rent when they're just living in the house that they grew up in. So
there you go. Yeah, I want it to work, but I definitely have my doubts. I mean, starting 3-2, like St. John's was never going to like be national title good this year, but I certainly thought that they would not get blown out by Michigan and then lose to Dayton. And yeah, I'm really bummed because I wanted it to be something, and I'm just like worried that maybe it's not going to be.
I'm going to give it another year. Like Rick always, it takes a year to kind of get used to him.
Yeah,
I think that He's another one of these guys that's a little bit crazy when it comes to what he demands
No,
out of his coaching staff, out of his teams.
To be clear, if Rick Pitino is not wildly successful at St. John's, I am 100% just going to blame it on St. John's. I don't think it's like, oh, damn, Rick Pitino's lost it to me. It's just going to be like, oh, okay, I guess St. John's will never be resurrected because if Rick Pitino can't do it, it's a hopeless exercise.
Here's the other thing, Titus. I'm going to make the argument that you're going to be able to agree with the most. If Rico Bosco has a very strong opinion about something, I think the odds prove that if you just go to the other side of that aisle, you're probably going to end up being right most of the time. And I like Rico, but if he's all in on something, I'm going to be all in on the other side.
Rob. Be
I'm
careful.
Probably going to be batting better than 500.
Rob, I can't. Rico, if you're seeing this clip, I disavow. I'm washing my hands of whatever Rob just said. Be careful. Let's talk Maui a little bit. Maui Invitational starts today. It is the most anticipated Maui Invitational field probably ever. I mean, you got 4 teams that are national title good, and then you also have UCLA and Gonzaga and Syracuse, who are all like some variants of good. They're all undefeated, right? Like every single team is undefeated except Chaminade in this thing. How do you like? First of all, do you agree with that? Do you think that obviously Kansas and Purdue are up there. Do you see Marquette and Tennessee as national title good teams?
Yeah, especially Marquette. They won the Big East regular season last year. They won the Big East tournament title last year. They brought 8 of their top 9 back. They brought the Big East Player of the Year and first team All-American and Tyler Kolek back. They have the best culture in college basketball right now. And Tennessee, I'm a little bit wait and see on them because I don't know if Rick Barnes is fully going to just kind of let Dalton Knecht go.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of realized like, hey, if we just try to play rugby out there instead of playing basketball, we're not going to win a lot of games in March. So we brought in the dude that could just go out and get buckets and can't really guard anybody. And if he can stick with that and kind of let this guy, Dalton Knecht average 18, everybody else plays defense. You just worry about scoring to make sure that we can actually break 60 on any given night. I think they got a real chance. So I'm very excited about this. I think this is the most excited I've been about the Maui, and I'm always fired up about the Maui, but I think this is the most excited I've been about the Maui in a long, long time. And like, you have 5 of the top 10 teams in America. You know what we need, Mark? I made this argument the other day. We have to have Purdue and Kansas play in that 5 p.m. championship game on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Think about it. The 2 best teams in America, number 1 and number 2. The 2 best players in America, Zach Edey and Hunter Dickinson. You have Bill Self, who people say does everything the wrong way, and Matt Painter, who might be the most universally liked coach in the history of college basketball. It's the perfect kind of matchup to cut through all of the other noise that happens during this week outside of college basketball, right? Like you got Michigan, Ohio State this week. You got Thanksgiving Day football games this week. You got all of this stuff happening, and you can get number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
Hunter Dickinson, Zach Edey. Like that's got to happen. We need that. All due respect to Tennessee, Marquette, Gonzaga fans, whatever. That game needs to happen.
I absolutely hate that college football bumped everything back a week because Feast Week used to make so much sense that like most college sports fans are sweating out their rivals playing each other in the football game this Saturday. Not to say that nobody cares about the Maui Invitational, but it used to be so great because it would be leading into conference championship week. So only a certain number of teams, like the football it wasn't done obviously, but it kind of solved itself. And it was a big deep breath. And then Feast Week starts and it's like, my team, we just lost to our rivals, or like we just had a 5-7 season in football. Fuck all that. There's college basketball, and let's do a hard pivot. And we're still stuck in this like rivalry week is going on. So like maybe our football team stunk all year, but we got those other guys we got to play this weekend. And it's just like a weird. It worked out so well. It used to work. Feast Week used to be so awesome. It still is. Like the basketball hasn't changed. It's just what you said. Like the attention the rest of the country has paid to it has changed because suddenly this is now the biggest week of the college football season, where it used to be not really that, other than the conference championships. And I agree with you. If Purdue and Kansas play for the Maui Invitational title, it would pop and it would be something. It has to happen. It just I don't know. The thing about Maui is every time I have gone, which I go every year, and don't ask me why I'm not there now. I just say I go every year, Rob, so that way it just gets in people's heads that like I have to be there every year. No, I went to the one in Asheville, and I vowed that I will never go to a Maui Invitational that's not in Lahaina ever again. So when they, obviously the fires are the reason they moved it this year, but I decided I wasn't going to go to. I was planning on it till the fires, but anyway, every time I'm there, I feel like it's like Bachelor in Paradise or some shit where you're just like put in like an incubator and it's like The Bachelor, but it's for basketball for me, where like I fall in love with every single player, every single team, just everything that happens in Maui. I'm like, I think that's the best team I've ever seen. Oh shit, no, never mind. That's the best team I've ever seen. Did I just watch the best game of basketball I've ever watched? It's like that every single year. I say all that to say, I really do think this year those 4 teams could be the Final Four. Like that legitimately could be a Final Four.
Yes.
Tennessee, Marquette, Purdue, Kansas. And even though I say it every year, like I fucking love all 4 of those teams. I'm so fired up to see.
Well, it's like, it's like every year you go on vacation, right? You're like, oh man, I could live here.
Yeah.
I could move here. Like you go to, I don't know, you go to Miami or something like that. Oh man, imagine just living in Miami all the time. And then you actually move there and it's just kind of like, well, you know what? You don't get to party every single night.
Right.
If you're going to live there, you got to have an actual job. You got to be a little bit responsible. And that's kind of what it is with the teams in Maui. You see them in this unbelievable environment in paradise, in this gym that just, it doesn't exist in sports anywhere else in America, right? Like you can't just put the best teams in the sport in a 2,000 seat high school gym essentially and have it be this unbelievable environment. So you go there and you fall in love with it and you're like, I could live here.
Yeah.
And then you get back to the mainland. It's like, oh, you know what? All these teams have warts. These guys can't guard. This guy can't shoot if you don't have the soft rim. So just is what it is, man. It's the beauty of Maui. That's why we love the event.
That's why we love Maui. I am worried that I'm worried the crowd's not going to be. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be a good litmus test because it's like how much does that gym matter for the atmosphere of Maui, and how much of it is having 400 people on top of you and being crazy. I don't know. We'll find out because they're playing in like a 10,000 seat arena. So.
You know what? You're a perfect person to ask this question to, because you played high school basketball in Indiana, where there are millions of gyms that are basically like just wooden bleachers where you put 2,000 people in a 1,500 seat gym, all screaming, all crazy, all yelling at you. Like how do those two things contrast? Is it similar to what you get out of the best high school basketball and the best high school basketball state in the country?
Maui, like is the Lahaina Civic Center? Oh yeah, dude, it is. It feels like exactly like playing on a high school game, and it feels like the soft rims and how hot it gets in there, and it does feel like everybody adds like 3 to 5 feet of range on all their shots, and they're capable of hitting shit that they wouldn't be able to hit in massive arenas. So yeah, I'm worried about that with the Maui Invitational this year, but also like if Kansas and Purdue are playing each other and it's Zach Edey versus Hunter Dickinson, it's just going to be 2 Goliaths in the paint beating the shit out of each other. So maybe like the soft rims won't matter as much, but
soft rims won't matter when you rip the rims down.
But I'm sad because I wanted to see the Dalton Connect show, like I feel like Dalton Connect and Cole, like Marquette's offense could have been awesome, and it still might be. I don't know. We'll see. But I seeing Dalton Connect in Maui, just, I don't know. I've fallen in love with that kid. So we'll see. What else? You think Kansas is the best team in the country? You high on this Kansas team?
I am. I think it's either Kansas or Purdue.
Yeah.
And every time I think about Purdue and think about Zach Edey, I like them a little bit more. I don't think we're talking enough about how good Arizona's been.
Yeah. Because
I think that they have the big guy that can match up with all these other monsters. They have 4 perimeter players that can get out there and guard. Kylan Boswell's been unbelievable. He's shooting like 67% from 3. It's early, but the whole knock on him was this kid can't shoot. And he's shooting 67% from 3 through 5 games. So I really like them. I think the beauty of this year is that there are like 9 teams that are really, really, really good. But there isn't anybody that is a step above the rest of the country. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, to me, there's like, you look at, let's just put it in the tournament sense, like the best number 1 seed all the way down to the worst number 2 seed. I don't know how much of a difference there's going to be between all of those teams. All of them can go out and win a national title. And I think all of them could also get beat in the second round. I wouldn't be that surprised about it. I love that about this season and the way this has kind of happened.
Yeah, the 2015 year was like that, where I know Kentucky was undefeated and they were so good, but like if I remember, like the top 8 was so all the 1s and 2 seeds were like so freaking good, and then it kind of fell off after that. But it was Kentucky, then it was like the 7 teams were kind of even after that, and then like Arizona was really good that year, and Wisconsin was obviously really good, and Duke won the title, and I think Villanova and Virginia had awesome teams that year. Yeah, those are the fun years. So I would love it if there was like kind of a Death Star team. There isn't so far. We shall see. Maybe Maui like one emerges. Certainly if like Kansas or Purdue just kind of looks dominant, or Marquette, really any team. Whoever wins Maui is going to be the number one team in the country.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to overreact to everything that happens in Maui.
I know.
That's the best part about Maui is like, they're going to win the national title. They're going to win the national title. They are.
The thing is, though, with Purdue, with Marquette, with Tennessee, with I would throw Arizona in there. Tennessee they went to the Sweet 16 last year, so maybe not as much. But I think all of those programs are in a position where for the general public, it almost doesn't matter what they do in the regular season, which stinks. But when you're Arizona and you lost to a 15 seed in the NCAA tournament last year, when you're Purdue and you lost to a 16 seed, and not even last year, like the run that they've had, Tennessee did go to the Sweet 16, but like Rick Barnes is still like one of those guys that gets stamped with like the never going to get over the hump label. And Shaka and Marquette, they have that going on too. It is like a weird thing where like I feel like Marquette could win the Maui Invitational, be the number one team in the country, and they're still going to have this feeling of like, yeah, we'll see when March comes around though. Shaka in March, like it always had, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Like Purdue will certainly be that. Like Purdue, I could see winning Maui every game comfortably, looking fucking dominant. Zach Edey like puts his stamp on I am winning National Player of the Year again. And the conversation's going to be like, which 16 seed are they going to lose to? Which is fair. It's just like it's a weird space we're in.
Yeah, they are exactly what Virginia was in the 2019 season. Like the parallels there are ridiculous. Like everybody said Tony Bennett was this great coach that could develop players, that could develop a program that couldn't win in March, right? Because I think they blew a lead to Michigan State in 2014 as a number one seed, and they lost as a number one seed, a number two seed in the second round in 2015. Then they were up by 15 with 8 minutes left to Syracuse, who was a 10 seed in 2016. 2017, they lost early. 2018, they lost to UMBC. And then they come back 2019, they go out and they win the national title in just like ridiculous storybooks. If you go back and look what they actually did during that run, it's like if you made this into a movie, nobody would believe it. They were down by 14 to Gardner-Webb in the first round. They needed the Kihei Clark shot to get to the Elite Eight, or the Kihei Clark pass just to get to the Elite Eight, right? They were down by, I think, 6 with 6 minutes left to Oregon. They needed that miracle foul on the 3 against Auburn to get to the national title game. Right. And then they needed DeAndre Hunter to hit a 3 to force overtime with 9 seconds left in the national. Like, if you made that into a movie, it'd be like, no, this isn't fucking real. Like, what are we doing here? So I know you got Indiana roots, right? I know you played at Ohio State. I really want that for Purdue this year. I know where your loyalties are going to lie, but I want that for Purdue.
Yeah, I have Purdue going to the Final Four. I've guaranteed it that Purdue will go to the Final Four, and if they don't, I'm pulling my donation on the Purdue Day of Giving. They will not be getting $35 from me this year. I am a Purdue booster, Rob. Did you know that? I'm a Purdue. That's the only school I give money to. Okay, so
I did know that, because isn't your mom like in the Purdue Sports Hall of Fame or something like that? Yeah, she's
a legend. Her face is up in Mackey Arena. And
you know whose face isn't up in Mackey Arena? Robbie Hummels. That's a great point. That's a great point. No, so I'm a Purdue booster. I would love to see my beloved Boilermakers go on a run. I do worry about the guard play at the national title level, but I think the guards are going to be good enough to get them to the Final Four at least. But yeah, it would be a great story, and you're exactly right. The parallels are there, and it's not just that they lost to the 16. It's all the other stuff. It's all the guys you mentioned it. It's like the culture of the program, and I think Painter has addressed the issues that Purdue had more than might meets the eye. Like it does sort of feel like they ran back the same team. They did not. Like Heidi and Miles Cole, like they added some athleticism. They hopefully those guys are not going to be gun shy with shooting, and when they do shoot, they don't throw up bricks like crazy. But I do think that Purdue has gotten better, but it does sort of feel, I think to the average fan, it feels like this is the exact same team from last year, but it's not, which is exactly how Virginia did it, where Virginia, they did lose to UMBC. DeAndre Hunter did not play in that game, which doesn't diminish UMBC's win, but like DeAndre Hunter's fucking DeAndre Hunter, and like having him back for a national title run, as it turns out, made a massive difference. So, all right, well, I appreciate you coming on, dude. I think we've hit enough. Well, I don't know if I've actually. So I think I've told you this story before. I'm gonna take over the closing if you don't mind.
Please
taking over your show real quick, Titus. I think I've told you this, but I don't know if I've told the story publicly. When Field of 68 wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you. Do you know this? Do you know what I'm about to tell you here? Do you know why?
Hold on. No, go ahead. I think I might, but go ahead.
So the day I got laid off from NBC, um, I put out the tweet like I got laid off, like anyone hiring, blah blah whatever, and then I kind of shut my phone off and threw it to the side, right? And it was like a morning in the middle of COVID, so I took my kids to a park and just like ignored everybody. Got home heavy in my feelings, like what the fuck am I going to do, man? There's no way I'm going to be able to get another job. Nobody is hiring. There's no sports going on right now. Nobody's playing. So I go down in my basement and I'm just sitting there. I'm like 6 IPAs deep, like just getting drunk by myself, feeling horrible about myself, feeling sorry for myself. And I just turn on my phone and open up Twitter. I'm just scrolling through all the mentions from what people said, right? And you tweeted me a screenshot and it said Tony Bennett 1 hour after losing to a 16 seed and 1 year before winning the national championship. And it was just this quote that was like, the way that it ended was, a life lesson is sitting there about defining yourself by maybe not what the world says, but there's other things that matter, and then you get back to it. So I'm sitting there like drunk by myself in my basement feeling sad. I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. Like, let's do this. Let's make this happen. And if I don't know, I probably would have figured something out, but like that was a real motivating thing. I don't think I've ever told that story publicly. I think I told you that. Was that at the Final Four?
Yeah, I think you shared that with me one time. No, man, that's awesome. That makes me feel. Yeah, I that's pretty cool. You're putting me in a weird spot because I don't like.
No, I know, but I needed that motivation.
Now, but
I wanted to make sure I publicly acknowledge that I appreciate the message and hopefully it had the effect that was intended.
Well, yeah, this is it all worked out. I mean, Field of 68 is your national. I mean, you're in a far better. If I may say so, I don't want to shit on your people at NBC.
It's way better. Everything about life is better. What's with NBC?
Than you were at NBC. So, life is funny like that. Rob, we'll have you back on throughout the season, man. You're a hard guy to pin down, though. You're traveling so much. I've been trying to book you for weeks now.
Just don't ask me to come on like literally while I'm getting on a flight.
Appreciate you making time. Best of luck with T.O. and Fanta. We've broken the seal now. We've had all three of you guys on the show. I'm going to have to start power ranking Dauster, T.O., and Fanta, but yeah,
I'm third on that list, and I'm perfectly fine being third on that list. Even though my daughter tried to get a picture with Fanta at the game on Friday, and Fanta was too busy. Make sure to ask him about that.
Oh wow, okay, all right. Well, now I got to get Fanta back on. We got to talk to him about that. Appreciate it, Rob.
Always good to see you, Mark.
Quick break to talk about our friends at Body Armor. The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by Body Armor. Real hydration, real ingredients packed with electrolytes, vitamins, and nothing artificial. Body Armor has great tasting flavors like strawberry banana and blue raspberry. I've been drinking a lot of strawberry banana around the office when I'm having lunch and stuff like that. When I'm on air and I just want the natural the sport water. That's the Body Armor of choice. But either way, you can't go wrong with Body Armor. Not only do we hydrate with Body Armor, but some of the best athletes in the world do as well, like Christian McCaffrey, Joe Burrow, Ronald Acuna Jr., CeeDee Lamb, and Bryce Young. Body Armor is the best. It's all over the office. It is. Honestly, we had this problem at the old Chicago office. We're having it at this Chicago office. We can't keep our fridges stocked enough because everybody, the second we get a new shipment of Body Armor in, everyone just rushes over. I do think there's some people that have figured out some corners of the office that they can hoard the Body Armor. I'm doing an investigation right now because I think there are some people that when they see certain flavors, they just scoop them all up and go hide them in their little nook and cranny in the office. And I don't blame them. I understand. I have the temptation as well, but I need to get to the bottom of that because the strawberry banana especially are hard to find around here, and I freaking love the strawberry banana. Body Armor is available in stores nationwide, but you can head on over now to Body Armor store on Amazon and get yours today. Body Armor, go do it now. All right, thank you to Rob. By the way, score update: Tennessee is now up 9 on Syracuse with about 4.5 left, so it feels like Tennessee is going to win. This is, I mean, I said it to Rob, and I'll say it again. Like doing shows during Feast Week is a ton of fun. It's the best. Like I said, it's the most fun week of the college basketball season outside of March, but also it does give. I'm gonna go home tonight and just like have my asshole clenched as I'm watching all these games to make sure like UConn takes care of business against Texas because. If UConn looks dumb against Texas this show, which already happened to us, TJ, this year, when Big Cat came on the show and was like, Michigan State national championship, book it. And before he even put it out, Michigan State was 0-1 with a loss to JMU. But yeah, looks like Tennessee will hang on, but we'll see. I don't know. There's still 4 minutes left. In the meantime, panic button team that we did not talk about. I asked Rob who should be smashing the panic button. He said Michigan State. I don't disagree, but it's a long. I still sort of think like it's such a long season, and Michigan State plays so many good teams. Like they got Arizona coming. I guess we got to see what happens with Arizona. The other thing is like the rest of the Big Ten kind of stinks right now outside of Purdue. That I think Michigan State is still going to be just fine in terms of getting second in the league, which is kind of where I had them pegged to start the season anyway. It's just they obviously don't look like a Final Four threat right now, but we'll see. But a panic button team that I want to call attention to that we didn't talk about is FAU, Barstool Invitational co-champions with Mississippi State. The FAU Owls, who obviously went to the Final Four last year, brought back 5 starters, brought back their coach, brought back what feels like a team that should go to the Final Four again. Lost to Bryant at home by 9. A very, 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 very bad loss. A horrendous loss. A loss that simply cannot happen if you are serious about making a Final Four return. I don't think it's an overreaction to say that their 1 seed is gone already. I think FAU, they have Butler. I think it's Fort Myers they play. They play Butler, and then the winner, assuming they beat Butler, but they'll probably beat Butler. But maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, they lose to Bryant. Butler could knock them off. I would love that. But they play Butler and then either Texas A&M and Penn State. So let's assume they beat Butler, and they have Texas A&M. Maybe they can beat Texas A&M. The schedule is not nearly as bad as it was last year for Florida Atlantic. Obviously, moving up to the American has beefed up the conference schedule a little bit. But Bryant is a horrendous loss, and it's not the end of the world in the sense that they made the Final Four as an 8 seed last year. So I don't think were they an 8 seed or a 9 seed actually? They were an 8 seed, weren't they? Or were they a 9 seed? I never remember. Does it matter?
They played Memphis.
Yeah, they played Memphis. NCAA. I hate that about.
Didn't they not lose at home all year last year too? That was like their big narrative.
Yeah, they were so good. That's the thing is like they were a legitimately good basketball team last year. It wasn't just a situation where they got hot at the right time. Like they were actually very. Let me see here, very good. And then, why does this matter? Why do I care? Now I just can't get it out of my head. Now it's going to bother me. It literally does not matter if they're an AC or not. But I'm just shook by this, and I need to know. They were a 9 seed. Yeah, I said 8 seed, and as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, I don't think that's right. I think they were 9. Anyway, they were a 9 seed last year, made the Final Four. So it's like, who cares if they've squandered the 1 seed at 2? Like, who really gives a shit? But at the same time, I think that's what we were expecting out of this program. Was like this was the next step. Was all right. You had your fun little run. Now let's see where you are as a program. Can you return next year with all these guys back and with a target on your back and deliver? And a game like this against Bryant at home is a game that you just simply cannot lose if you're serious about winning a national championship. Again, you can pretend like games in November don't matter, but this is a very, very, very bad loss. So I'm smashing the panic button on behalf of FAU. They can, I guess, unsmash it if that's a thing. Can you unsmash a panic button? I think you can. I think you smash the panic button because you're panicking about the situation, and if you resolve the situation, then the panic is over, right? So they still have time to resolve it. But like I'm absolutely smashing the panic button right now. A few shout outs before we get out of here. Number one, jaedon ledee of San Diego State, former Ohio State player, by the way. Spent his freshman year at Ohio State, averaged like 3 points a game, did absolutely nothing. Jaedon ledee is averaging 28.6 points, 10.6 rebounds, and 1.8 assists per game right now for San Diego State. He is shooting 58% from the field. He's also averaging 1.6 steals per game. I know it's early. It's only been 5 games. The nerds will point out the sample size is not that large. But in 118 career games, this is Jaedon ledee's like 5th season, I think. How many seasons has he played at this point? Like 6th season? He's played 118 games entering this year. I'm going to pull it up. I forget how many seasons he's played. I can't remember if this is 5th or 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is his 5th. This is his 5th year. He's played 4 full seasons of college basketball. This is year 5. He played 118 games before this season. He had never in his career scored more than 23 points. and he's currently averaging 28.6 points. He had one game of 11 plus. He had never, like, the 23 is the career high. Now he's averaging 29. He had one game of 11 plus rebounds one time. He got 12 rebounds in one game. I think it was last year. And now he's averaging 10.6 rebounds. He's playing insane basketball to the point that, like, I think I feel pretty comfortable in saying he would be National Player of the Year. Again, there's a lot of basketball left to be played. We shall see what happens from here, but just putting up insane numbers and coming out of nowhere. Like, this is a guy who last year he averaged like 8 points a game for San Diego State. And San Diego State was very, very deep last year. That's part of what made them so good on their path to the national championship game. But yeah, ledee averaged 7.9 points and 5.3 boards last year for San Diego State, and he's just been an absolute monster. Just playing insane basketball this year. San Diego State did lose to BYU, I know, but they're 4-1. They're still in a decent position, and BYU, that's a tough place to play, man. So yeah, beat the absolute piss out of St. Mary's, beat Washington in overtime. Jaedon ledee is balling out, and I wanted to give him a shout out because he is yeah, I don't know, he's coming out of nowhere too. It's not that he's put up monster numbers; it's that he had kind of never shown this at all. He'd shown some flashes, I should say, here and there, but he's never like put complete games together like this, and now he's doing it every single night to start the season, so that's pretty cool. I want to shout out Coen Carr as well, who's becoming a fan favorite on this show. Like, I cannot get enough of him. Again, I reserve the right to walk this back when he humiliates Ohio State, but right now I absolutely love Coen Carr. Had a nasty dunk on Alcorn State. Did you see this, TJ?
It's kind of all of Michigan State, though. Like, the Michigan State just loves dunking the ball.
Yeah.
They just love making highlights, even if they're not that good right now.
Michigan State, to me, is Coen Carr dunking the ball, Tyson Walker doing insane shit like crossing guys up and then hitting like tough shots, and then a bunch of guys that I'm screaming at like, why aren't you better?
Yeah. This is a narrative, though. Like, it's setting up to fulfill what we talked about last year with them, where it's like they're never the best regular season Big Ten team, and then they're just like they're built for the tournament.
Yeah, they're gonna lose like 8 or 9 games at least in the Big Ten season, and then be ready to go in March.
Izzo would do that thing where they get knocked out in like the second round of the Big Ten tournament. He's like, oh, I guess we get extra off days. Oops.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're the 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. Yeah. They lose their first game, and then they make the Sweet 16, and then losing the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, and then all the Big Ten people are like, Izzo's a fucking wizard, dude. He did it again. But then all the national people are like, how is he a fucking wizard? He didn't even make the Final Four. This man's won 1 national championship. And then everyone's like, yeah, but you don't understand. This team looked lost. They looked rudderless for most of the year, and Izzo found a way to get it done. And that's kind of where we're headed with Michigan State, I think. But yeah, Coen Carr had a dunk on Alcorn State where he didn't touch the rim, and I just want to go on record as saying I am very much in the camp that you do not need to touch the rim for it to be a dunk. I'm in the camp that if you throw the ball down, that is a dunk. Throwing the ball, like if the Blake Griffin example, TJ, where he would do that every so often, where he gets so high he'd just throw the ball, but he's kind of far away from the rim. Coen Carr had one of those. That's a dunk. That's a dunk. The act of dunking is not touching the rim to me. Like, that's not when you're dunking a basketball and everyone's like, holy shit, what a dunk. They're not freaking out because the guy touched the rim. They're freaking out because the guy got so high that he can throw the ball down.
Right.
Whereas usually when you shoot a basketball, you have to shoot it up. This guy jumps so high, he's shooting it down. That to me is the dunk. The dunk is not touching the rim with your finger. Who gives a fuck about that? The dunk is displaying the athleticism that you're above the rim and now you're throwing the ball down. That's more impressive than a dunk, like a traditional dunk where you touch the rim. So I just want to go on record as saying that because that becomes a controversy. Anytime you see a guy dunk a basketball, and then there are always people that are like, not a dunk. That wasn't a dunk. That was a shot that he shot down. And I go crazy about that because that is very much a dunk to me. So there you go for all of those who are wondering where I stood on that controversy. By the way, Tennessee's up 11 with a minute and a half. I think the Vols are going to get it done. They're going to take care of business. Dalton Knecht only has 17 points, though. He's had 17 for a while. He didn't score much of the second half. Adu looks like he came alive a little bit. I like this Tennessee team. I really, really like this Tennessee team. But I mean, Rob mentioned it. Like it's going to be very interesting to see what Rick Barnes does with Dalton Connect as the season wears on, and if he goes through like a rough patch offensively, so far so good. I mean, he's an absolute bucket, but if there's like 2 or 3 games in a row where he's like 2 for 13, and his defense isn't great, what happens then? But I think so far, I think we're gonna get to a certain point where Dalton Connect proves that he's such a bucket that even if he's not hitting, you have to just leave him out there and hope he comes around. I think you just have to live and die by him because he is so fucking good. I love him. And I already had like 2 or 3 Syracuse fans that listen to the show, watch the show, that wrote in during this game and were like, I hate this kid, Dalton Connect. He's just and I get it. They're just like, he's got a very punchable face. And I was like, yeah, I know, but something about him, dude, I just respect the hell out of him. He's so good, so fun to watch. A couple other things I wanted to talk about before we get out of here. Jay Williams is impossibly bad at commentating college basketball games, and I just wanted to draw this to anyone's attention who did not watch the UConn Indiana game on Sunday. In a world where we have a lot of bad color guys in college basketball, and listen, I did the job once upon a time. I know people. I don't need to remind everybody. It's something most college basketball fans remember well. A seminal moment in college basketball history when I called the St. John's St. Peter's. I think it was St. Peter's. No,
St. Francis.
St.
Francis, PA.
St. Francis, PA. As I said, it's a moment everybody remembers well on FS2. It's a tough job. I won't lie. It is a tough job. Pretty much the only thing you can do to fuck up the job is to just be an absolute hater at every turn like Jay Williams was. He literally said at one point that seeing the red and white of Indiana makes him want to vomit. He was talking about how UConn didn't recruit him, so he kind of fucking hates UConn. It's a game between UConn and Indiana. At one point, Carl Ravitch points out that Donovan Clingan was like driving a Rolls Royce this offseason. And instead of Jay Williams being like, damn, that's pretty baller to be driving a Rolls Royce, his hating ass was just like, didn't Donovan Clingan come off the bench last year? Why is he driving a Rolls Royce? And I was like, Jay, shut the fuck up, dude. Jay, can you shut the fuck? I honestly don't even get that annoyed by commentators because I think it's like part of me. I having done it, I understand how hard it is. And like some of the things that annoy people, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's a little bit of annoying, but it's a tough job. I try to show grace to guys. Holy shit, Jay Williams put forth the worst commentating effort I've ever seen against the Indiana UConn game. I mean, it was a masterclass in bad college basketball commentating. He's talking about at one point Ravitch brings up Bob Knight dying, right? And Jay chimes in. He was like, listen, I hate that whenever people talk about Bob Knight, they always want to talk about the bad stuff, and it always gets brought up, and I hate that people have to do that. And I'm watching this, I'm like, then don't fucking do it, dude. What are you doing? And then he just goes on and on about how Bob Knight, obviously was an asshole, and we talked about it on the show when he died. But like, he was driving me insane. He was driving me absolutely fucking insane. He wanted to be anywhere else in the world than at this college basketball game. Anywhere else in the world. It was very much an inconvenience to him. So I want to put that out into the ether. Anybody at ESPN watching this, for the love of God, do not put Jay Williams on any basketball game that matters. I do not understand how people watch Bill Walton and hate him, but then you like basically what I'm saying is in a world where like people seem to hate every commentator, I promise that Jay Williams is far worse than anyone else. Bill Walton is a fucking god at this, and Jay Williams is so bad. And I don't even say this as a guy who has a personal gripe with Jay Williams, so that did come across like kind of personal, but like he made it personal with his commentating, dude. He was taking shots at fucking everybody, like literally the entire game. His hating ass was just like pointing out everybody who sucked, why they sucked. It was wild. It was absolutely wild, and I never want to see him call a college basketball game again. So there you go. There's that. He said at one point, TJ, he was speculating that DJ Wagner, who starts at Kentucky, who was one of the like 8 or 9 number 1 recruits in the country, because that's how recruiting works now. DJ Wagner's grandfather is on staff at Louisville, right? Kenny
Yes.
Payne hires his grandfather because he thinks that that would help him get a shot, or that's the implication. Is he hired his grandfather thinking he would have the inside track to getting DJ Wagner. It would turn the Louisville program around. and everything would be great. So DJ Wagner, he has it basically down to 2 schools. It's Louisville or Kentucky. He commits to Kentucky. Louisville fans are devastated by this. He gets to Lexington. He is now starting for John Calipari on a team that I'm very high on. He's so far so good at Kentucky. Jay Williams, in the middle of a UConn Indiana basketball game, is speculating about DJ Wagner transferring to Louisville based on absolutely nothing. If DJ Wagner wanted to go to Louisville, he had a very good opportunity to go to Louisville. He did not want to go to Louisville. He went to Kentucky. So far, it's working for him at Kentucky. And Jay Williams just out of nowhere is like, I wouldn't be surprised if DJ Wagner next year transfers to Louisville. DJ Wagner's going to the NBA. He's going to go to the NBA. And if he doesn't go to the NBA, he's going to come back to Kentucky.
I would assume Louisville would be pretty far down on the list of transfer options, too, if it was somebody like DJ Wagner.
And he just pulls this out of his ass out of nowhere. Very, very confusing. I don't know. Again, it's a complaint that I understand that the college basketball community at large complains about announcers so often that I feel like announcer complaints and ref complaints are like the 2 things that like just kind of go in one ear and out the other, because it's just that's basically we just complain about both throughout an entire season, and I get that. So this might be a little boy crying wolf, but I try not to complain about announcers too much. And Jay Williams, holy shit, were you bad? Please stop, for the love of God, stop calling college basketball games. I don't know if I could be any more direct than that. And then the last thing I wanted to last shout out I had was PFT commenter at College Game Day was so awesome.
Incredible.
It was an absolute masterclass, except for the missed field goal that we don't have to talk about.
Right.
But he didn't have his cleats, right? They caught him off guard. He definitely did not. He definitely did not have his cleats prepared for that kick. But yeah, dude, he was running circles around those guys, and watching Reese Davis develop a man crush in real time was so freaking awesome. Like Reese is like 10 seconds slow, which I don't blame him, because I was too. I was on the couch listening to everything PFT said, and then it wouldn't click in my brain until like 10 seconds after the fact. But watching Reese like have the same realizations that I was having like 10 seconds later, and then suddenly just like smack the desk in laughter, it was so good. It was so perfect. So that was a ton of fun. It sucks that JMU lost the football game, because that kind of puts a damper on everything, but whatever. PFT was awesome. So, by the way, Tennessee did in fact win. They won by, is my math right? They won by 17?
Yeah.
Damn, they just pulled away late. Hit their free throws, it looks like. Yeah, so Tennessee marches on. Maui Invitational going on. Anything else before we go?
This is the last show before Thanksgiving break.
Oh, yeah.
Please be on the lookout. If you follow anything Barstool, you won't be able to avoid it, but our biggest sale of the year is this weekend. Black Friday sale starts Thursday night around midnight. Depends when Dave starts the sale. Everything's 20% off. Mostly sports stuff in the store, yak stuff in the store, general Barstool stuff in the store. Buy some stuff. If we go over our expected sales number, the money divides evenly between all the behind-the-scenes people. So
hell yeah. Help TJ
Help
out,
the
man.
fellas out.
Help the fellas out. Go get some Barstool merch. We got some good stuff, man. I've been thumbing through like the boxes of stuff we have here, and I mean, am I allowed to say that I just like every so often will just grab like a crew neck and?
No, yeah. We got some good stuff. At one point, we did not have a ton of good stuff, but quality-wise, the stuff has only gone up.
Merch team has really stepped it up.
Yeah.
And we love them for it. So be sure to check that out. Oh yeah, I guess this is the last show before Ohio State Michigan football game too.
Yeah. Big weekend.
Big weekend. I said that to Rob too. Like I hate that the football schedule got bumped. It used to always be played like the week before Thanksgiving, and now it's the week of Thanksgiving, which makes for like a fun weekend, but also a fun week and then leading up to a fun weekend. But it's also like too much going on and your head's spinning. Yeah, I like where the Buckeyes are at. I like our chances. I think having a roster full of future NFL players and being considered an underdog is a great spot to be in, especially in a rivalry game. I said this on Mostly Sports. I've been getting flack for it. I think the pressure's on the pressure's on both teams, but I think I think there's more pressure on Michigan than there is Ohio State, and somehow like everybody seems to disagree with me on that. I don't know. That's just like I feel like Michigan. This is like the whole last 20 years of Michigan football has come to a head at this moment in time, where they have an opportunity to sneak a national championship to grab it real quickly before the program gets nuked. And whether it gets nuked or not, like it's fair to say that the Michigan football future is murky. I think that's fair to say. That even if Jim Harbaugh's still the coach, they have a ton of seniors on this team. I don't think Jim Harbaugh will be the coach moving forward, but I could be wrong. It's just like the future is very, very murky for Michigan, and they have a hell of a football team this year. In my mind, I feel like the time is now for them, and if they don't get it done this year in terms of like winning a national championship, I would, if I was a Michigan fan, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know when this is ever going to happen. Whereas Ohio State, like I feel comfortable moving forward that like even if we lose to Michigan on Saturday, like the program is going to be just fine moving forward. Like I know that everyone loves to make a big deal about like crazy Ohio State fans losing their mind at Ryan Day. Like there were some people, TJ, would you believe this? There were some people last year that like when we were down when we started losing to Michigan in the second half, they were calling for Ryan Day to be fired. Like what? Insane people.
Who could have done that?
Who could have possibly done that? But no, I think Ohio State. That's how I'm viewing it. Is like I get how everyone's like wrapped up in the Michigan cheating scandal, and it's like this is Ohio State's one chance to prove that we could beat this is an opportunity to knock off Michigan and stuff and take the power back and all that is true. Like given Michigan's cheating, and like where Ohio State's at, like Ohio State does have a great opportunity. There is a lot of pressure to like finally prove that the last 2 years were bullshit and we are the better program. We've always been the better program, yada, yada, yada. And obviously if we lose, we're probably almost certainly out of the national title picture. Maybe there's like some chaos scenario where we sneak back in as the number 4. Probably not though. Yeah, of course, there's an immense amount of pressure on Ohio State, but in my mind, I think there's more pressure on Michigan. They're the better. Really, if you're the underdog, I think the favorite in this game always has the pressure. If you're at home and you're the favorite, the pressure's on you. That's how I've always viewed it, but I don't know. A lot of people seem to disagree, and they feel like this is the biggest Ohio State game ever, when I'm like, I see it the complete opposite way. I think Michigan has all the pressure, and if Michigan doesn't win, their entire run to this point, the last few years is all fraudulent, and it all comes unraveling. This is the one game they must win. Whereas if we lose this game, we lost to Michigan last year and still almost beat Georgia in the playoff. I don't know. So I'm definitely nervous. Insofar as like I get nervous for every Ohio State Michigan game, but yeah, I'm not going to be on any stream. What is the plan, by the way, here at the company? Is Big Ev doing a stream with Dave?
I would assume so. Yeah. Well, no, they're going.
Oh, they're going to the game.
Yeah. They weren't originally, but I think they're doing a live show from there on Saturday.
Yeah.
Which would be sick because they get really good access at Michigan.
I wouldn't be very good on a stream anyway.
No,
Dan asked me to come on a stream. Like I'm if you want to see me be insane, it's Ohio State basketball on the stream. Like I'll get insane for Ohio State basketball, but even really insane is relative compared to a lot of the people that work here.
You and I both, I think, internalize our football emotions. Like I watched you at the Wisconsin game, and it was very much the same thing as I am during a Rutgers game, where I go like almost dead silent, and then I'm just like the biggest Debbie Downer in the world. Like I'm not like let's go. I'm like I'm going to fucking die if this isn't a first down on this play. I will die instantly.
Right. Yeah, because I did the stream with Connor Griffin for Penn State, and I don't know. I'm really not trying to be like cool about it all, but you're gonna hate what I'm gonna say, TJ. Very arrogant, very elitist, but being an Ohio State football fan, for me, and especially a guy who didn't like grow up with it, and I like fell into it by going to school there. I kind of see the forest through the trees, which is like, if Michigan beats us by 100 on Saturday, we're gonna be fine. Like next year, we're gonna be preseason number 3. You know, like I know we're gonna be fucking awesome next year, and that I don't take that the wrong way. It doesn't mean I don't want to beat Michigan. I very much do. It's a very big game, obviously, and I care immensely. I just I'm not going to punch a hole in my drywall if we lose. I'll just be like down in the dumps for the rest of the day, and then I'll wake up on Sunday and be like, fuck it, let's go about our lives. It's basketball season. Let's see what happens. The one I do get upset about is Ohio State in the NCAA tournament, where I just like live and breathe by every shot, and it's a fucking nightmare. But thankfully we haven't had to deal with that problem. Yeah. Thank God Ohio State wasn't in the tournament last year, and I didn't have to.
Yeah, thank God. I hate playing in the tournament.
God, that sucked. So yeah, I'm not doing the Ohio State Michigan football stream. Apologies to everybody, but yeah, it wouldn't have been that much fun to watch me anyway. But I'll do one if the Buckeyes make the NCAA tournament. I'll do live streams for sure, and you can watch me sweat out every turnover when that happens. So anyway, I got Buckeyes by we're gonna win by 6 against Michigan. We're gonna win by 6. In football on Saturday. The Ohio State Buckeyes will win by 6. That's my official prediction. I think we're going to win by 6. I think we got I think we're going to have the 2 best players on the field, and Travion Henderson and Marvin Harrison. I think our defense is better than theirs, and I think the pressure is going to get to them. And our coaches are better than theirs. Harbaugh's not coaching. Harbaugh's definitely not calling in at halftime to make halftime adjustments.
They did look super shaky this weekend.
Yeah, they did. But that's part of they did, and I almost fell into the trap, but I think that's part of Ohio State, Michigan, is you always look like shit the game before.
Because you're looking at,
Yeah, it's always, and you don't want to, you're sandbagging a little bit, because, that's par for the course. It is the best rivalry in sports, though. I fucking love it, and I love that they've got some juice to it, but I still stand by. Brandon said this is the biggest Ohio State, Michigan game ever, but 06 is definitely the biggest. I mean, you can't beat 1 versus 2. We're only... Yeah, that was for the Big Ten championship too, because there was no Big Ten championship back then. Like there was no, you know what I mean, like championship game. So the winner is literally the Big Ten champion, not like the presumptive Big Ten champion. Bo Schembechler died the night before. It was insane. It was the most insane setup, but that was in the past, and this one is coming up. So I guess we have to say that this one is the most hyped ever. So whatever. This is probably the second most hype ever. All right, thank you to Rob Dauster. Thank you to everybody watching, listening. Enjoy Feast Week. There's going to be a ton to talk about next week. We're going to obviously not do a show for Friday because of the holiday, so we will be back next Tuesday trying to do our best to recap everything that went on. The Maui Invitational alone is going to give me like hours worth of content, so I'm going to try to do my best to distill it down to one show. But, yeah, I'm fired up for that. Enjoy the week, everybody. We'll see you on the other side.